screen is visible now, Vakya?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Well, to me, my screen is not visible. Unfortunately, what I'm sharing, I can't see.
Okay, sir. Maybe it will be visible in a while. There must be some network problem.
Sure. As long as you are able to see it, we are good.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Gaurav. Mr. Gaurav, myself, Professor Dr. K.N. Pandey, Dean, Student Welfare of the Institute.
Very good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah. Yesterday there was some network issue, therefore I couldn't join at 11, but able to join at I think 11:50, and at that time it was over.
Not a problem, sir. I mean, basically, my pleasure to be here today and getting a chance to interact with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, welcome. Sushant, have you made the sequence of
Yes,
the
sir.
program? Sequence of the program?
Yes, sir. Vyakya ma'am has made. Vyakya ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Yes, sir. I have the sequence.
Okay, very good.
Good morning, Rajiv Tripathi, sir.
Sir has joined.
I think I saw him. Yeah, I think he got disconnected. He joined, I saw him, and now I can't see.
Okay. हाँ सर, हाँ ज्वाइन किए थे सर आप, फिर सर डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए। अच्छा, नहीं ये जैसे इंटरेक्ट करने वाला अभी हो सकता है सर, अगर आप आए तो मिस्टर गौरव, इंटरेक्ट करने वाला, जैसे उनसे कुछ बात करना है वैसे फॉर्मल। हाँ, वो गौरव तो आ गए हैं। Professor Rajiv Tripathi will join within 2 minutes, and
No problem.
And he will interact with Mr. Gaurav. Mr. Gaurav, Professor Rajiv Tripathi will join the program very soon, and he wants to just interact with you.
Sure, sir. Pleasure, sir.
Before the program, before 11 a.m., this interaction may be there.
Yakya, just a quick question. When I'm moving slides, are you able to see? Are you able to see the?
Yes, the screen is visible. The screen is visible. You had opened a folder. Named Downloads. Downloads folder is opened.
Oh, all right, okay. But I was trying to open the presentation.
MNIT. First one, yes.
Is it open, sir, now?
Have you double-clicked it?
Yeah, it's open. Actually, on my screen it is visible. I don't know why it is not visible. Just one second. I'll try another way.
Welcome, Manjeet sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Pandey sir. Good morning, Gaurav.
Good morning, sir.
Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director of the Institute, has joined.
That's great, sir.
Sir, we welcome you in this program. Now, Vyakhya, please take charge.
Yes, sir.
Now I will not speak. Okay, thank you.
Shall we start?
No, first of all, Professor Rajiv Tripathi will interact with Mr. Gaurav.
Okay, sir. I think he is not here yet.
Yes, he has
Okay,
joined.
he is here. Okay, good morning, sir. Good morning, respected Mr. Gaurav Arora, sir, Director, sir, Mr. Rajiv Tripathi, Dean, sir, Student Welfare, Mr. K.N. Pandey, sir, Faculty in charge of SMP, Manjeet Arora, sir, and all the students present here. We welcome you to the session organized by Student Mentorship Program on Corporate Social Responsibility with Mr. Gaurav Arora. I request Director Sir, Mr. Rajiv Tripathi Sir, to please interact with Gaurav Arora Sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, because I'm
Good
traveling.
morning, Professor Tripathi.
Good morning, Gaurav. How are you?
Good.
I'm very well, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me
Very
today
good.
to be a part of the session.
Very good. Very good.
Very good morning, Rajiv sir.
Good morning, Manjeet bhai. Good morning.
It's great. It's great to see you. Great to see you joining the webinar. I know you have been traveling. Right now, you are not in office or at home, but still you are traveling and still you have joined. So I congratulate you for this your passion for these type of activities.
अरे नहीं भाई, हमारा एलुमनाई कहीं भी इकट्ठा होगा मैं तो पहुंचने का पूरा प्रयास करता ही हूँ।
जी सर,
अब
जी सर।
तो अच्छा है और अच्छा लगता है। अच्छा, the topic which we are going to deliberate today, this is very relevant topic, and I am hearing about this corporate social responsibility for the last so many years, and in fact in 2016 or 17, if I remember correctly, one of our alumni, Nikhil, once something, but at that time probably CSR was only limited to some other sector. It was not open for educational institutions. Now recently I have come to know that now it has been utilized in educational institutions as well. So that way it is very relevant, very important. I would like Gaurav to guide us, to tell us how to grab this opportunity, because we have alumnus in almost all the leading industries, Navaratna industries, and then I will need your suggestion, guidance, and support to frame out some kind of project for the institution in which the different facilities can be created, because as you know, the government of India these days means any kind of infrastructure, if you are going to propose, you have to go for a loan, and loan is also, there is a cap in loan, and with the kind of requirement of infrastructure for making institution as an excellent place, uh, that amount or the cap which has been put, that is very low. So we have to grab the alternative resources. So that is where I need your guidance, help, and support.
No, sure, Mr. Tripathi. Yeah, I think the fact of the matter is that we are the only country where CSR is a law. Companies are by law expected to put their profits CSR. Okay, so companies which are making an annual profit of more than 5 crore and companies with a turnover of 1,000 crore and above, they are required by law to spend 2% of their profits on CSR. Imagine, sir, like TCS and big IT companies, this 2% becomes almost 500 crore in a year. And the good thing is that there have been certain amendments in the act through which research and other projects actually also have been added, and as expenditure. So I definitely see that this is a great opportunity for academic institutions ours to leverage CSR expenditure from companies, Navratan companies and other private companies. So it will be a pleasure. I'm grateful that the college has given me opportunity to come back here, and I will try my best to be in touch and make sure we can take it forward in a more meaningful way from here.
So today, thank you. And today, let it be whatever you have planned. Let it go like this. We can further interact one to one, and my team from the institution, Professor K.N. Pandey is there, Professor Geetika is there, who is looking after for this revenue generation and international relations, and we can have a kind of web meeting so that we can start something to carry forward this initiative. And important input will be from your side, that what are the potential areas in which, if the proposals are submitted to respective companies, and one side, what I could understand is, one side we need to identify the industries, and industries primarily in the beginning, I think we should trap kind of those industries where our alumni are there to support us, help us. And
Absolutely.
second way will be, second point will that areas, that particular industry projects on this scene. That was my basic preliminary perspective. Rest I will take the input from your side, and we can those things. Is it okay? Would you like to
No, sir, I think it will be a pleasure,
add
and
something to this?
no, sir, I think it will be a pleasure, and thank you so much for making me come back to the system. I think it's a great opportunity, and I look forward to contributing. So it will be a pleasure, sir, to work alongside college and something meaningful in this area. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Gaurav. Rajiv sir has mentioned his plans very clearly and very loudly. His message was very clear. He's as a director, he is on his job even in this session also. So your guidance, your inputs will be highly helpful to the ALMA, and I hope you will do your best to guide the ALMA, and Alumni will be there to lend the support, whatever is required.
Sure. Manjiji, just one thing before we start formally. I think there is a problem in sharing my presentation. So I was wondering if I could share.
तो आप ऐसा करिए, अगर आप प्रेजेंटेशन अपनी सुशांत या व्याख्या को अगर आप दे दें तो आपके पास उनका नंबर है?
नहीं सर मुझे एक बार बोले दीजिए, मिस्टर गौरव,
yes,
please log out and then again log in. This may solve your problem.
Right. Okay. Is it visible now? See, everything is fine in sharing, but I think is the screen visible? The first slide of the presentation?
No, your folder is visible to me.
Oh, sir, so can I do? Yeah, if Vyakhya can.
Please log
Sir,
out.
you can share.
Yeah,
Sir, you can
Vyakhya.
share the PPT in the chat box, and then we will be able to access.
All right. Okay, I'll do that. Just give me a minute. I'm doing that. Vyakhya, if you could also share with me your email address, I can quickly send it across as well.
Okay, sir.
Vyakhya, Professor Geetika and JP Sahu has joined.
Welcome, Geetika ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, Geetika ma'am.
Good morning.
And ma'am, welcome to the session.
Thank you, Vyakya.
Ma'am, we would like you to speak two words about it and interact with Mr. Gaurav Arora, sir.
Now,
Yes, ma'am.
have we started the session?
No, no.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we are doing the introductory session right now.
So, first of all, very good morning to everyone. Our director, Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Professor K.N. Pandey, Shri Manjit Arora ji, Shri Gaurav Arora ji, Vyakya, Shan, all other dear participants, faculty colleagues. I welcome you all to this webinar or this interactive session on a very relevant topic on corporate social responsibility. Especially in the present scenario, we have become more conscious about our social responsibility. The concept emerges from the fact of corporate citizenship, so or the ownership or belongingness. So whether we work for a business which is for profit or not for profit, we hold various responsibilities towards the society. And Gaurav, we've talked yesterday, and I came to know that he has been interacting also as a guest faculty in leading an institute. I actually look forward to a very insightful session, very good session, and I want that all of us actually listen to this and try to understand how, in whatever small way, we can contribute toward the society. How do we become responsible, more responsible? We are all responsible. I don't say we are not responsible. We are responsible, but I do believe that this webinar, like all other webinars under the SMP, which is a very great initiative of Human Library, we will be definitely able to move ahead. I welcome the speaker, I welcome the moderators and the coordinators, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will not stand between the speaker and the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geetika ma'am, for the introductory.
Thank you, ma'am.
Vyakya, have you shared your mail ID with Gaurav?
Yes, sir. I have shared it in the chat box.
Vyakya, can you just tell it to me also, because for some reason, I don't know if it is some setting issue. The chat box is not visible. Can you share it to me, the email address? I can.
Verbally? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, it is Vyakya, VYAKHYA,
VYAKHYA.
then numeric 5,
Okay.
then Srivastav, SHRI,
HRI.
VAST, AVA.
No dot, right? Vyakya 5 Srivastav.
Yes, @gmail.com.
All right. I'm sending it to you right away. Please confirm.
Okay, sir.
गौरव, एक आपको मैंने सुशांत की भी भेज दी है, तो जिसको जल्द पहले हो जाए दोनों को भेज दीजिए. सुशांत इज आल्सो देयर. आपको व्हाट्सएप पे मैंने भेजी है. सुशांत.
Yeah, Vyakya and Sushant, can you please check?
Yes, sir. I'm checking.
Yeah, and I can start without the because it's not a problem.
I would like to welcome Mr. GP Sahu, sir, to the session. And I request him to please speak two words and interact with Mr. Gaurav Arora, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Vyakya, for giving me this opportunity. I'm thankful to the organizers and welcome Gaurav Arora for bringing this very important topic, corporate social responsibility. All of us are interested to know more about how we can contribute towards corporate social responsibility. I'm Professor GP Sahu with School of Management Studies. That's about me. Thank you very much. And I will come again, Gaurav.
Welcome, sure. Gaurav sir. This is Manjeet Arora, 84 Mechanical.
Thank you. Vyakhya, Sushant, have you received the presentation?
Yes, sir, I have received. I'm trying to upload it.
All right. So let me know when I need to start.
Yes, sir, I have received it.
Gaurav, you have permission to share your slide. No, in case if you would like to have control, you have permission.
Sure.
There are 3 dots. So just upload button is there. Up arrow.
No. Yeah. Mr. Sao, actually, I'm aware of it. For some reason, there is, I'm sharing, but the participants are not able to see it. That's the reason I decided to email it to Vyakhya.
Okay.
Which option you were taking?
Sir, the top.
Desktop sharing.
Yeah, desktop sharing. I was doing that. But anyway, now.
After sharing the desktop, you have to minimize the this Microsoft Teams.
Sir, I did that.
Let Vyakhya or Shant Manish Pandey ji, they can manage it for him.
Yeah. That's the reason I shared with you. But I am happy to start, whenever you want me to. Even the PPT midway, there is no problem at all. So I'm happy to start without the deck also, as the time, basically, we need to start.
Okay. In the meantime, Vyakhya, please
Yes, sir.
introduce our speaker to the audience, to the participants.
Okay, sir.
Let me give the brief introduction of Gaurav, then Vyakhya will take over from me. I think that will be fine.
Yes, sir.
Vyakhya?
Yes, sir.
So, Gaurav is right now he's a vice president with the Salam Bombay Foundation. He's with the projects there. He's vice president projects there, and he's looking up the skills and developments. And Gaurav has been affiliated with the skill development ecosystem since the inception of National Mission in 2009. He brings his 16 plus years of experience in the corporate and development sectors in this role. Gaurav is also the visiting faculty at the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, and he has also done MBA from Narsi Monji. And last but not the least, he is our 2004 alumni, 2004 pass out from ECE from MNIT Allahabad. That is the brief I have from Gaurav for you all. And now, Vyakhya, you can further take over.
Yes, sir. So we welcome all of you to the session organized. We welcome all of you to the session organized by Student Mentorship Program on corporate social responsibility with Mr. Gaurav Arora. We are delighted with the presence of Mr. Gaurav Arora as our guest speaker, who is the VP Skill Sets at Salam Bombay Foundation, SBF. Mr. Arora has been associated with skill development ecosystem since the inception of India's national mission in 2009. He innovated the Skills in a Bag model at SBF, facilitating easy training access to 20,000 underprivileged students across 5 cities, and made uninterrupted remote vocational skilling a possibility for the beneficiaries. He has played a key role in SBF's COVID-19 response and contributed to the Mumbai civic body's effort to mitigate food scarcity during the migrant crisis. Mr. Arora is a visiting faculty at Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. He holds an MBA in Social Entrepreneurship from NMMIS and a BTech in Electronics from NIT Allahabad. So we welcome you to MNNIT as the guest speaker for sharing your views on corporate social responsibility from the Student Mentorship Program. This program is an initiative taken by our alumni Prakhar Srivastav to start a culture of mentoring in college. It has exhibited tremendous potential for enriching the life of every student who joins MNNIT Prayagraj. It promises to provide unceasing counsel and gives every junior reasons to keep his flame of hope ablaze even in challenging times. SMP Meet, Human Library, and Alumni Connect are our main events conducted throughout the year. It provides an exposure to the students regarding the industry. So today we would like you to speak on corporate social responsibility, which is a self-regulating business model that helps a company be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders, and the public. By practicing corporate social responsibility, the companies can be conscious of the kind of impact they are having on all aspects of society, including economic, social, and environmental. Now I request Mr. Arora to continue with the discussion. Over to you, Gaurav sir.
Thank you so much, Vyakhya, for the introduction, and thank you so much, Professor Tripathi, Professor Sahu, Professor Geeta, Manjiji, and everyone else. It is a great opportunity. I have to admit that I am not a very active alumni until Mr. Manjit Arora thought that I have certain skills, which could be useful, and he actually brought me here. And thank you so much, for the welcome that I have received. I'm really grateful to everyone for this opportunity. As we go ahead, and I have a deck which Vyakhya and everyone is helping me put together. What I want to say is it was 1970s when there was an economist by the name of Milton Friedman. And he said at that point in time, the only social responsibility of business is to create or maximize profits for the shareholders of the company. Okay. And he said there is no other social responsibility of a business. There is a phrase he coined. He said the business of the business is to do business and nothing else. Okay, so there was a time then, and then there is a time today when we are really talking about CSR or corporate social responsibility becoming a very important management domain, and important domain to the extent that it is being taught as a full credit course in all the top-notch B schools, of our country. So something would have happened, right? If CSR was all about philanthropy and it was all about just giving, I don't think we would have seen such a significant change in the understanding and definition of CSR over the last few years. The second point I want to make is the fact that especially in our country, India, CSR is mandated by law. Okay, which means that certain companies which are making an annual profit of 5 crore and above, or which have a annual turnover of 1,000 crore and above, they are mandated by law to spend 2% of their profits on CSR activities. Okay, now imagine, I don't know, basically, since the time is less, I can't ask everyone to do a guesswork, but for companies like Tata Consultancy Services and Reliance, which make an annual profit of around, or which make basically profit before tax annually at around roughly 25,000 crore. Okay, this amounts, so 2% of their profit would amount to roughly 500 crore rupees. Okay, if we put together the profits of all companies, which will be mandated by law, this whole amount will be around 10,000 crore and above. Okay, so what we are talking about is 1,000 crore and above is available for CSR activities. Okay, and whose money it is? This money belongs to investors, who are letting go of it as a, basically they were supposed to get dividend on this money, but they are now letting go of this money. Okay, so given the fact that such a huge amount of money is being invested, there has to be certain accountability for it, right? So we are at a stage now where investor wants to know that for over 1,000 crore rupees that is being spent annually on CSR, what is the impact that the money is creating? Okay, so that's a very important point, that there is a lot more accountability to spending of CSR than it was 5 or 10 years before. Okay, second, when investors are letting go for companies like TCS 500 crore rupees to be spent on CSR activity, they really now want their CSR also to be return centric. Okay, so not necessarily financial return. Okay, but I think it is perfectly okay for companies to think of CHR as certain investment which can bring back certain, basically returns for the companies. So, I'll move on then. So, quoting Mr. Kofi Annan, he said at Davos, the role of private sector. So, if the private sector economic growth and economic opportunity, equitable and sustainable, and this sustainable is a key word, around the world, then peace will remain fragile and social justice will become a distant dream. That is why I called today for a new partnership between government, the private sector, and the international community. So I think this word, basically sustainable is a very important word, and over the next few slides, you're going to talk about it. So the word sustainable is actually linked to sustainable development goals, and I'm sure some of you would have heard about sustainable development goals. So these are 17 goals which are given by the United Nations, and they call for building peaceful, inclusive, and well-governed societies with responsive institutions at a basis for shared prosperity. The SDGs are people-centered and planet-sensitive. They are universal, applying to all countries while recognizing different realities and capabilities. They came up because of an unprecedented agreement, among 193 member states of United Nations, and they have received a worldwide support from civil society, from businesses, parliamentarians, and other actors. So we are looking at a period from 2015 to 2015, a 15-year period in which these sustainable development goals are to be met. And minded, private institutions, companies, etc. are going to play a very, very important role in attainment or achievement of these sustainable development goals. So, looking at sustainable development goals a little more deeper, they are into 5 categories of people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. Okay, so within people, you've got, ending poverty and hunger in all forms and ensuring dignity and equality. Within prosperity, you've got ensure prosperous and fulfilling lives in harmony with nature. And then you have peace goal, you have partnership goals, and you've got planet goals. And very quickly we look at all the 17 sustainable development goals. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth. If you look at all these SDGs, as I'm reading about, industry promotion and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate change, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and basically institutions and partnership for the future. So what you will realize is the fact that if companies have to help in achieving these sustainable development goals, their responsibility will not just be limited to philanthropy or community, right? So companies' responsibilities are also related to environment and a lot of other things. So what is the need for companies for sustainable development? So idea is, if business has to be developed, the society needs to be developed, and business sector cannot flourish in any country if the environment required by business is not conducive. There is some background noise coming in. Can someone put their... Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think, businesses cannot flourish in an environment unless and until, basically everything is good. So business cannot just say that our responsibility is making profit. So if the entire environment and the entire ecosystem is not supportive, business will not be able to make profit. And then businesses have a responsibility to contribute positively to that environment. Increasing social issues impact the entire society in general and business in particular, because to a large extent businesses are dependent on the society for growth and prosperity, right? So business cannot flourish if the society is not flourishing. So therefore the businesses have a role in making sure that society also has a growth and people in the society achieve also prosperity. Stakeholders who have long remained dormant have stirred awake now and are now proving themselves as major forces to be reckoned with. Okay, and on this particular point, I would like to share an example. I don't know how many of you remember, the nano car of Tata Motors. Okay, so when Tata Motors wanted to first manufacture Tata Nano car, they decided to manufacture it from Singur in West Bengal. Now, what happened was that Tata Motors actually, mind it, Tatas are one of the most socially responsible companies, of our country. And we have been talking about CSR for Tatas for a very, very long time. So, Tata wanted to build this, plant in Singur in West Bengal, and they went and acquired land with the help of government of West Bengal. That point in time, it was a CPI government. Okay, and the government, on behalf of Tata Motors, went ahead and acquired land from the farmers. Now, farmers, for some reason, were not very happy. Uh, Farmers thought that they only knew farming and agriculture, and if their lands will be taken away from them, they thought basically they would not have any means for alternative livelihood. Okay, so despite all the protests and everything, the government went ahead and acquired the land and actually gave it to Tata Motors. Now Tata Motors actually started building the plant. They put up a fixed infrastructure and everything over there. Almost 1,000 crore rupees was spent by Tata Motors on building this plant. Now, unfortunately, the government changed. Okay, and when the government changed, the voices of farmers became a lot more active. And when the voices of farmers so these are dormant stakeholders which were earlier silent. Okay, but now their voices became so loud and clear. There is some disturbance in the background. Can others keep themselves on mute? Vyakhya, Sushant, can you put others on mute, please?
Yes, sir, I've put everybody on mute. I don't know where this voice is coming. You can continue.
Yeah. Okay, so basically now this farmers became very active and they started their protest at a much larger scale, and it went to the extent that Tata Motors was not able to use the Singur plant for manufacturing of the nano car, and Tata Motors had to move the plant overnight from Singur in West Bengal to Sanand in Gujarat. Okay, so you can imagine that basically the companies are actually functioning in the realms of society. Okay, and if societies are not aligned with the businesses, so businesses will not be able to operate. So I think maybe and I have great respect for Tatas, but I think the right way for Tatas to acquire land should have been to kind of keep the farmers involved in the discussion, right? And what happened was that in this particular classic case, because basically a certain stakeholder which was farmer was not kept in loop, or was not basically, I think a good way would have been that companies should have been sensitive to the fact that when land should be acquired, the farmers will lose their livelihood. Okay, so can they look at providing skill building of these farmers or people from their families, so that they can actually get alternative livelihood opportunities. So that's the point, that businesses cannot flourish unless and until society flourish. And if the society is not flourishing, there will come a stage where societies will actually make it very difficult for businesses to operate. So that is the reason businesses and societies have to work together. It is an accepted fact that there are crucial linkages between economic growth, human development, social cohesion, and environmental sustainability. Okay, so now we look at the role of the private sector shared value. So of course, I think the most important thing of the private sector is to create products and services. Okay, now while they are creating products and services, they have to do it in a very legal and ethical way. Okay, so that's the second responsibility. So first, they should create products and services that can fulfill the needs of the consumer.
कल बुला लूंगा नीचे कोई नहीं
नहीं वही गाड़ी ले लेते हैं बार बार मुझे
They
दूसरे
should.
को बताते रहते
क्या ले लेते
वो जो गाड़ी देखी थी फिर
Yakia, Sushant, there is a lot of disturbance. Is
Please
there a
mute your mic, whoever has unmuted.
Yeah. So, if you look at the role of the private sector, I said, the first and the foremost role of the private sector is to make good products and services. And when they are doing so, they should follow the land of the law, the law of the land. They should do it legally and they should do it ethically. Okay. Now, after having done that, and we are looking at, different responsibilities, right? And after having done that, they should make sure that they are making their products and services in a way so that you are creating less liabilities for people and planet. So you can't create your products and services at the cost of damaging the environment, right, or harming the people. Companies should not do that at the cost of creating liabilities for people and planet. And once you have done that, then you look at social development. Okay, now if we look at the whole basically the value chain of businesses, right? So businesses actually impact the society in a lot of way. So they can impact the society through their value chain. They can impact the society by means of their operations. And if we have to look at all of that, let me actually give you a few more examples. Now, lot of if you look at the whole retail and apparel industry, and you would have heard the names of brands like Primark, Gap. They are all kind of basically companies that source apparels from basically low cost economies like Bangladesh and India also to some extent. Now, while they might be paying their employees very good, uh, since a lot of manufacturing is happening in Bangladesh, it is very evident that in the whole supplier process, the suppliers which are actually making these kind of apparels for them, there is a lot of pressure, cost pressure on them. Okay, and hence it was very evident through a lot of case studies that these suppliers were employing child laborers to actually deliver apparels in a very very cost effective way to these companies. Okay, so while Primark and Gap and other such companies might be best employers and they might be doing very very well for their employees, for their customers, but ultimately in the value chain, if that cloth is being manufactured by employing child labor, there is a serious problem. If that cloth is being manufactured by not paying minimum wages, okay, and by people working in dilapidated and very poor working conditions, I think that to me is a problem, right? So these companies cannot say that our responsibility is only limited to our employees. Um, these companies have to be mindful and sensitive to the fact that in their value chain, in their supply chain, there are child laborers which are working to produce the product that ultimately they are selling, right? So I think these are things that companies have to be sensitive of. And I mean, of course, there are lots of case studies you might want to, after the session, want to go and, do a simple Google search and look at YouTube videos. You'll find that when customers are knowing that, the clothes are being manufactured from factories in Bangladesh where child labor are employed, customers are asking questions, and customers are going to the extent of boycotting the products of these companies, right? And today we are living in a world where social media is making everything known. Okay, so sooner or later the customers and the consumers will know all these things, and then basically they will start boycotting the products of the company, and that will really affect their bottom line and top line. So then basically the social responsibilities of companies like Primark and Gap is to really make sure that child laborers are not employed in the factories in Bangladesh from where they're sourcing the clothes. It is their responsibility to make sure that good working conditions, decent wages are being paid, etc. So that's what basically we mean by social responsibility. It does not necessarily mean that philanthropy is the only way of being socially responsible. So Primark might be spending 500 crore rupees on good education, on health, in countries where it is operating, right, as a social work. But if things are so poor in their value chain, I don't think they're being socially responsible. Okay, so that's the point basically we are making. Now, when we look at the, basically the operations of a company and the impact that the operations of a company will make. Okay, so you can imagine a manufacturing company, right? And you can imagine the pollution, that a manufacturing company will make. You can imagine the waste, that will be generated. You can imagine the kind of material they will be sourcing. Okay, you can imagine, basically how they are consuming the energy. Okay, so there is one company which is, using conventional source of energy. Okay, and there is another company which is saying I'm more socially responsible. Okay, and I would like to, use renewable energy sources. Okay, so if you look today, every company is saying that, and they are reporting that, we are sourcing 10% of our energy from renewable energy sources. Okay, or imagine there is one company, basically when the waste is being disposed, basically when the waste is coming, the company is not disposing the waste in a proper way. Another company is actually, taking care of the waste. Or there is one company which is recycling a lot of water within the plant, right? And the company is saying that we are able to recycle 20% of the water, and over a 4 or a 5 year period, we'll be water neutral. We'll not take any outside water. We'll just recycle the entire water. Okay, so again, these are operations. What are you doing with your biomedical waste? How are you disposing them, and so on and so forth. Let me give you another example. Many companies, as a part of their CSR, donate old computers. Okay, and imagine 5-10 years before, a lot of companies were actually working on desktops. Okay, and what will happen is every 4 or 5 years, when the desktop will depreciate for them, they will find a way, as a part of their philanthropy or charity, to donate a old computer to, basically a school in a rural area. Okay, so one would say, oh wow, this is a great philanthropy. One company will say in 1 year we have given 1,000 computers at charity, right? But have you really thought about the whole life cycle, basically of a desktop? See, we have to make a note that a desktop, a monitor, a CPU, basically we are talking about e-waste over here, right? Electronic waste. Okay, so in a way, company is passing on its liability. Otherwise, a company is required by law to take care of the e-waste. But by virtue of, when the employees of a company utilize the computer for 4 years, and now, rather than actually taking care of their e-waste, they are simply passing on the computer to a rural school, in some village. Now, what will happen? Basically the school will use it for 2 or 3 years. Do you think the school is going to dispose it in a very, very, environmental sensitive way? No. What, a company that donated 1,000 computers, after 2 or 3 years, basically they will be disposed in a very, very worst fashion, and that will cause a lot of environmental damage, right? So while we might think, from a CSR perspective and from a philanthropy perspective, that a company by donating 1,000 computers have done a phenomenal job, but fact of the matter is that actually this company has created more liability to the environment and has not been responsible, right? So I think it's very, very clear to understand the entire life cycle, to understand the responsibility of a company. Okay, so these are few things I wanted to just emphasize, that business impacts the society and environment in a lot of way, and one has to look at the responsibility of a company in a very, very holistic fashion. So let's come to today's topic. What is corporate social responsibility? One thing that I really want to emphasize is that in 1970s, Milton Friedman would have thought that the responsibility of a business is only for its shareholder and to maximize the profit of the shareholder. I don't think in today's world you can use only the word shareholder. The word that we are using today is a stakeholder, right? Okay, so one has to look at CSR from a stakeholder perspective. And who are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are those people that are affected by a company's operations, or they affect the company. So there can be primary, secondary stakeholders. So customer is a stakeholder of a company. A supplier is a stakeholder of a company. A person working in a supplier's factory is a stakeholder of a company, right? So one has to really look at, basically the whole stakeholder aspect, and the social responsibility of in today's world. Social responsibility of a business is not just limited to a shareholder, but to each and every stakeholder that is affected by the company. So what is CSR? CSR is a view of the corporation and its role in society that assumes a responsibility among firms to pursue goals in addition to profit maximization. Okay, so this is very important, to pursue goals in addition to profit maximization, and responsibility among firm stakeholders to hold the firm accountable for its action. CSR describes the company's approach to managing their business processes to maximize their positive impact on stakeholders both within the community and in the wider society. Okay, so CSR aims to deliver bottom line benefits and value creation through responsible business practices. And it is not just a checkbook philanthropy. You know, giving 500 crore to NGOs is not, CSR in a very, very holistic fashion. Okay, so if you look, basically there are 5 buckets at which CSR is operating. There is a community bucket, there is an environment bucket. Okay, and my responsibility at my own workplace, what I'm going to do with sexual harassment in workplace. Am I providing fair wages? Am I providing a decent working environment? So basically at the workplace also I have a responsibility. At the marketplace also I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility towards my customers, towards making sure that my products are safe. I have a responsibility towards disclosing the contents of products and services in a proper way. Nestle and Maggie, I think they were not socially responsible because they did not disclose the content of lead in Maggie. Okay, and for a very, very long time the consumers kept on consuming Maggie, and look at their whole propaganda when they came up with Maggie. They said tasty bhi or healthy bhi. Okay, so I think they made a false disclosure, and hence they did not fulfill their social responsibility towards a marketplace, because they kept the customer in the dark about the contents of a particular product. Similarly, there are millions of examples where companies like P&G in US have not been responsible at the marketplace, and they have not really disclosed the content, and on a very long term basis, certain products of P&G had real cancer risk for a large number of patients. Okay, so of course, the time is less and I really cannot, basically talk about a lot of examples. But what I really want to emphasize is thinking of CSR only from the perspective of philanthropy or charity, or community CSR is not a holistic way of looking at CSR. A company has social responsibility towards its customer, towards its suppliers, towards the environment, towards its own employee, and towards every stakeholder that is being affected by a company. Okay, so CSR at its best is aligned with the corporate ambition, integrated with business processes, a reflection of employee and corporate values. So if we look at the entire CSR hierarchy now, okay, so I'm not saying that companies should not make profit. So I think the first and foremost responsibility of companies is economic responsibilities, right? By virtue of the fact that they are an artificial legal entity, they have to generate profit, right? But generate profit by making sure that you are legally responsible, that you are following the laws of the land. Do not be illegal and make or generate profits. Okay, now you're making profit and you're following the law of the land, but be ethical. Don't kind of basically generate profits in a very, very unethical way. Okay, and when you have done all of that, so when you have fulfilled your economic responsibilities, when you have fulfilled your legal responsibilities, and you are doing that in an ethical way, then you have a discretionary responsibilities, towards CSR, towards community, and so on and so forth. So again, basically in CSR, there's a very important pyramid. We call it Carroll's CSR pyramid. So economic responsibility, be profitable. That's the foundation on which all the companies rest. Then there are legal responsibilities. Obey the law. Law is society's codification of what is right and wrong. Then there are ethical responsibilities. Be ethical. Obligation to do what is right and fair. Avoid harm. Okay, so don't do things in a way that you are harming one of the stakeholder. And the Tata Motors Singur example that I gave, while Tatas are very, very socially responsible, okay, but maybe in case of Singur, I think their action could have harmed the farmers, because farmers did not know any other alternative livelihood, right? So while their intentions are very good, I think they did not think about one of the stakeholders. And finally, you've got philanthropic responsibilities. Be good corporate citizen. So we'll move on. I want to then now emphasize on the whole traditional philanthropy, and then there is strategic philanthropy, and there is CSR. Okay, so a very traditional way of looking at philanthropy is more altruistic in nature. It is love for mankind, dan dharm, good thing to do. There are no financial returns, okay, but gives a feel good factor, for companies. And 10-15 years before, maybe the companies, basically were doing CSR because they wanted to feel good. Okay, may enhance brand image over a period of time. And simple examples are a company gives a certain amount of basically checkbook donations to a NGO called Asha Dan, right? But that is very, very traditional in nature. Okay, from there we are maturing to strategic philanthropy, which is a win-win situation. If you look at the entire Lifebuoy project, right, and there are case studies of Hindustan Unilever Limited. Vyakhya, can you put the presentation on?
Yes, sir. My phone got hung and I got disconnected.
No
I'm
problem.
just sharing it again.
No problem. Yeah. So, I was talking about the strategic philanthropy. Okay, so let me give you certain examples. Unilever India has a project called Project Shakti that they have now replicated also in a lot of African countries. This basically project is creating on kind of focusing on creating women entrepreneurs. So what they are trying to do is they are providing a lot of entrepreneurship skills to women in rural areas. And then what is happening is when this basically woman is trained to be an entrepreneur, they are actually giving this this particular woman HUL products only, so shampoos and basically all FMCG products from Unilever India are given to these basically women entrepreneurs on a credit basis, and they are selling basically these products in those rural villages. So see, what is very what is happening interestingly is the fact that on one side basically they are focusing on women empowerment, on creating entrepreneurs, and these women entrepreneurs will actually kind of generate money and profits for themselves. In a way they will be able to take their family out of poverty, right? So which is a good intention CSR. But then look at the other side, which is very, very strategic in nature. Vyakhya, next slide please. I can do it. Yeah. So then what is happening? On the other side, these women entrepreneurs are only selling HUL products. Okay, so when they are selling the HUL products, ultimately the reach of the HUL FMCG products are increasing. They are reaching the marketplace where they were not reaching earlier. So in a way, it is also contributing to the top line or revenue growth of HUL. So this kind of CSR, we call it very, very strategic in nature, because at the core is definitely an aim to do a social good, and by doing women empowerment and creating entrepreneurs, you're doing it. But on the other side, that social good is also leading to some kind of revenue basically increase for the company. So that's the project from Unilever India. Okay, like this they have got a lot of other examples, basically Lifebuoy, for example, right? I mean, basically it's a simple act of hand wash. Basically you would realize that right now though we are talking about coronavirus and pandemic, before coronavirus and pandemic also, because a lot of people were not washing their hands, the child mortality and under 5 mortality is a big problem in our country, and a lot of deaths, basically malaria and a lot of other infections could be averted by simple act of basically washing the hands. Okay, so when Lifebuoy conducts a campaign countrywide to make sure that people are able to realize the importance of washing hands, then in a way they are going back and buying Lifebuoy as a product to wash the hands. So I think so you see how it is strategic in nature. On one side, the intention is good for community, but on the other side, those good intentions are also contributing to the top line of the company. So that is strategic CSR or philanthropy. And what we are talking right now is CSR, which is driven by sustainability agenda, which I'm going to cover in the next few slides. And it is stakeholder centric. It is investment and return centric. Okay, and you're not looking at only society or community for philanthropy. You are looking at each and every stakeholder while you're talking about corporate social responsibility. Okay, so sustainability reporting. Sustainability reporting is a practice of measuring, disclosing, and being accountable to internal and external stakeholders for organizational performance towards the goal of sustainable development. Okay, and whole stakeholder view of CSR. It is a broad term considered synonymous with others used to describe reporting on economic, environmental, and social impacts. And over here, I want to introduce a term called triple bottom line. Okay, all of us are aware about bottom line, right? Bottom line is profitability or profit of a company. So every every quarter, the law required company to report on their financial bottom line, or a profit bottom line. Now, when we are talking about sustainability reporting, what we are saying is, companies should also report not just on their basically financial bottom line, which is related to profit. They should also report on bottom lines which are related to people and planet. Okay, so then we are saying that there are measurable indicators, related to environment and people that the companies need to report on. So that's the concept of triple bottom line and sustainability reporting. Sustainability report should provide a balanced and reasonable representation of the sustainability performance. So what we are, talking about over here, that for a very good company, which really focuses on a sustainability agenda, it will not shy away in communicating certain bad things that have happened in the company. For example, basically I have a plant, I have a manufacturing company and I have a plant, and there were certain injuries and there were certain fatalities. Okay, so a company that believes in the sustainability agenda will not hesitate in basically and share that in the financial year 1920, we had 5 fatalities and we had 200 injuries. But we understand and we do realize that there are gaps, and come 2020-21, we will make sure that there will be no fatality. Okay, and no and the injuries will be reduced by basically 25% or 30%. Okay, so that's where we are talking about a balanced approach. Okay, where companies are really disclosing their long-term view, basically of things. Let me give you another example. Imagine companies like Ola and Uber, right? And today investors are maybe Ola and Uber are profitable. Okay, and basically, but remember, basically these companies are looking only at petrol and diesel cars. So from a sustainability standpoint, I think an investor would really want these companies to think long term. So are they thinking about electrical mobility, right? Okay, so when we talk about sustainability, we are really looking at a long-term strategy of a company. So maybe in today's time and world, a particular Indian, say Maruti Suzuki, right, and it is manufacturing petrol cars. So it is actually great. Today they are number one in India. They have more than 50% market share in the passenger car market. Okay, but if Maruti Suzuki is not really very sincerely thinking about investing in research and development for electrical mobility, tomorrow the Teslas of the world would come to India, and at that point in time, companies like Maruti Suzuki would not have any technology, right, for electrical vehicles. So that is the reason today investors want to invest in companies which are thinking on a sustainable agenda, which have a strategy for sustainability, and which are thinking long term, which are not just thinking that at the moment we have a 50% market share and we are making huge profit and our shareholders are happy. That's not the case. What is the long term thought process, for a company from a sustainability perspective? So when we talk about sustainable performance, right, and I talked about the fact that we should not just measure the performance of a company using the financial parameters, we should also look at other factors for assessing the performance of a company. So of course there are economic performance, and there is market presence and other things, but then there are also environmental indicators. What is the kind of material a company, raw material that the company is sourcing to make its products? are they damaging? Are they harmful? What about energy? Is it only dependent upon conventional sources or also renewable energy sources? How are you consuming water? Are you recycling water? How are you looking at biodiversity? What are you doing with your emissions, your effluents and waste? Are you disposing your waste in a proper way? Products and services, compliance, transport, logistics, you can imagine the kind of pollution that is happening, right? So imagine, basically what is the kind of environmental damage, basically that will be causing when a company is hugely dependent on logistics and transportation. So how are you minimizing the emissions, right? Then looking at, social. So within social, of course, you have your own labor practices and decent work. So are you employing child labor? What are you doing with the occupational health and safety? Diversity, how many, basically what percentage of women are, basically employed by a company? What percentage of women are employed at the senior management level? What percentage of women are there in the board? So whole diversity aspect, and not just diversity related to women, also diversity related to, people with disability. So are we really looking at, basically people with disability? What percentage of your employees are, from people with disability sector? Affirmative action and a lot of other things, right? So your own labor practices, then human rights, basically, are you doing business at the cost of human right violation? Are, basically in your supply chain, are your suppliers kind of, basically employing child labor? Interestingly, there's a movie by the name of Blood Diamond. Okay, and so basically, it really talks about the fact that there are companies like De Beers, basically which are again sourcing diamonds from mines in South Africa, and it really shows, basically that actually the diamond that is taken out from a mine in South Africa, actually, there is a bloodbath, and I'm using the word bloodbath, because that's the name of the movie also. Basically, so a diamond is coming out from the mine by employing a child labor and the kind of working conditions, basically which are there. So it's practically a blood bath through which a diamond is, coming out of the mine, and De Beers and, other companies are selling it, right? But imagine, one day when a responsible customer will know that this diamond that De Beers is selling is actually coming from a bloodbath, that a very conscious consumer is going to take a negative, basically opinion about it, and might not really purchase from De Beers. And again, this will harm the kind of revenue for a company. So human right becomes very important, society, and then finally product responsibility. And I talked about, I gave the Nestle example, the Maggie example, right? So are you making right kind of disclosure? Are you thinking about customer health and safety, products and services labeling, disclosure, marketing, communication, and basically all of that. So I think that's where also companies have responsibility. So broadly, what I want to say is that gone are the days when we look at the responsibility of a company through philanthropy only, thinking about community. Today you have to think about every stakeholder from a responsibility perspective that the company affects in its value chain. Okay, so importance of sustainability reporting. Corporate companies that focus on sustainability report or sustainability agenda outperform their peers over a longer run, which in turn results in stronger market position and increased profitability. There is a reliable correlation between business integrity and above average financial performance. Social responsibility helps to acquire national and international listings and provide access to otherwise restricted markets. And let me give you an example. Suppose there is an Indian company which wants to list in New York Stock Exchange. Okay, and this company is only reporting on financial parameters. It is not reporting on environmental parameters. It is not reporting on, basically other parameters that I talked about in the previous slide. Okay, so today, I don't think, because every company, one investor is not interested in the fact that you are only making profit. How are you making profit? Are those profits being made by damaging the environment? Are those profits being made by disclosing, by not making a full disclosure to the customer, right? Are those profits being made by, causing some serious human right, violations? So investors and basically stock exchange want to know all of that. Okay, so a company which is actually reporting and making a full disclosure of its sustainability performance, will have better welcome in New York Stock Exchange, as compared to companies which are only reporting on financial parameters. Okay, so sustainability report will provide a sound understanding of organizations, customer needs. Other benefits are attracting finance and so on and so forth. And what I really want to share in the end is, basically, this is a finding of a published report, Sustainability Reporting Trends in North America 2018-19 by, Center for Sustainability and Excellence. Now, the study's aim was to establish if there is any correlation between sustainability reporting and standard practices of companies and their financial results. Okay, so research analyzed 642 private companies from United States of America and Canada across sectors like energy and utilities limited, financial services, mining, etc. And the research, established strong correlation between corporate sustainability performance and financial results. So 75% of companies with sustainability reports, right, which kind of, not just limited to financial reports, but also reported on sustainability parameters, they had better financial results as compared to their previous years. So, this particular research was able to establish a very positive correlation between companies which are sustainable and their financial performance. And I would like to conclude by saying that, basically, and this is a very good picture, because we are all aware about, that there's an imbalance in the world, right? So on one side is, of course, the whole profitability. Okay, but profitability at what cost? At the cost of people and planet. Okay, so companies need to kind of, basically lessen this imbalance, and perhaps they can do that by looking at CSR and sustainability as one of the answers. So that's where I conclude. Thank you. Over to Vyakhya and everyone else. If there are any question and answers.
Thank you, sir. Now I request all the students if anybody has any questions. So we would do a question and answer session now. You can raise your hands if you have a question.
Sorry, Vyakhya, I can't see anyone, so maybe you will have to.
Okay, sir. I have a question. So, how can a company stand out from its competitors by using corporate social responsibility?
Sure. All right. So, the first and foremost thing is to really not look at, CSR from the perspective of only charity and philanthropy. Okay, so if you really want to stand out, you will have to really look at a stakeholder view of CSR. Okay, so that's the first point. Don't just limit if you really want to be visible and if you really want to stand out, expand the definition of CSR, not just limited to, thinking that I am donating to charity and that is CSR. Basically a company will stand out if it is as responsible towards, its product responsibility as it is towards philanthropy or, towards its community responsibility. So that's one. And I think second, is the fact that I think, we are living in a world where it is, basically driven by social media, right? Okay, so whatever you do, think of it in a very, very, strategic fashion. Okay, so, certain companies like Unilever India, and certain companies like, basically are actually creating a lot of campaigns about the great work that you are doing. Okay, and again, basically we have less time, but I would really want you to, look at a lot of YouTube videos where, the companies are making some really great videos about their CSR and how, basically strategically they're also, providing positive returns to the company. Okay, so I think, there is a need today to talk about your CSR. So gone are the days in which, you'll just be shy. You'll make an investment of 100 crore on CSR and you'll keep quiet about it. I think you have to make, basically make your CSR visible. You have to talk about it. So I think because ultimately, as I mentioned, they're spending 500 crore by law on their CSR, and today investor want to know that what is the return I'm getting. So there have been cases in which in annual general meetings of companies, a minority shareholder stood up in front of a chairman of a company and said that 200 crore rupees are being spent annually by this company on CSR, and I've got no idea what your CSR is doing. So I think it's very important for companies to communicate, to brand their CSR and to make it visible. So if you really want to stand out, one, expand the scope or definition of CSR. Not just think of CSR only from the perspective of charity or philanthropy. And second, make your CSR visible. Talk about it. Speak about it.
Thank you, sir. Now, Preeti Kumari would like to raise a question.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
hi.
Preeti from final year. So I have two questions. The first question is, how can a startup do strategic kind of CSR? And the second is, how to value a company based on CSR?
Sure. Thank you, Preeti. Okay, so first question is how you can strategically look at CSR. So, I would say that companies should try and align CSR to their business objective. Okay, so, a very good company will tend to do CSR which is aligned to their domain or work of business. Okay, so that's the first thing. Not every company can do it, but, company which are really looking at strategically, should think about aligning CSR with their business objectives or, with respect to the domain of the business. So that's one. And second, I think, basically, if you are really looking at CSR strategically, okay, think of CSR as a return centric investment. Okay, so that return can be in terms of not necessarily a financial return. So I'm not saying that, you spend 500 crore on CSR and, it should give you 500 crore back. Not like that. But do, from a strategy perspective, whenever you decide to engage in a CSR activity, think of certain returns. It can be in terms of basically enhancing the brand image of a company, okay, or increasing a company's consumer base, for example, okay, or when there are a lot of research which says that customers or consumers want to buy products from companies which are more socially responsible. Okay, so then you'll have to reach out to your consumers and communicate to them that what CSR you are doing. Okay, so think of CSR very strategically, align it with business objectives, have a clear plan that you want to get from CSR. So that's one. Okay, and your second question, I would say that whole sustainability reporting, right, where we have spelled out indicators. Okay, so like you have indicator for the financial health of a company. So how do you look at the financial health of a company? You will look at the PE ratio or profitability on a quarter-to-quarter basis. Okay, similarly, your sustainability reporting has got indicators, okay, which are very objective in nature, which are very data driven. Okay, so when you look at these indicators and when you look at data, you really understand that basically this company is sustainable and this company is not. So I think the whole sustainability reporting provides you a lot of data and indicator that can help you in assessing whether a company is truly sustainable in nature or not.
Thank you, sir.
I see Aishwarya raising her hand.
Yes, Aishwarya, would you like to raise a question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. So my question is from the previous answer you gave about the strategic implications of the CSR. My question is how to choose the right idea and the area where the company wants to do the CSR activity. How do they choose it?
Right. Okay. So I can give you a few examples. So one, I talked about the Unilever example, right? And I talked about two examples. Unilever India is in the process of what? Basically selling FMCG. Okay. Now, there is a great competition today between Unilever and, Procter & Gamble. Everyone want to reach out, to the fortune. There is a fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, right? CK Prahlad. Okay. So everyone want to expand their market reach. Now, by making sure that you are able to train women to become entrepreneurs in a very rural area. Okay, so one, you have trained these women to become entrepreneurs, and second, you have given them ultimately Unilever India's products. So shampoos and sachets of shampoos, biscuits, and toothpaste and toothbrush or whatever. So ultimately, these women who are now entrepreneur, Unilever India is giving them products on credit. Okay, and when these women, and imagine there are 5 lakh entrepreneurs created by Project Shakti of Unilever India across the length and breadth of the country. Okay, so if these 5 lakh women entrepreneurs are created, you can imagine the kind of basically revenue increase in revenue it will lead to over a 1 year period, right? Okay, so this I called as a very, very strategic CSR, right? So one company will say, okay, basically, I am a tech company, and I want to, from a CSR perspective, I want to donate 100 crore rupees to a hospital. Okay, so there is no clear business objective, right? This is an IT company, not really directly doing anything with healthcare, and decided to donate 100 crore rupees for a hospital. So see, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that someone should not donate 100 crore rupees to a hospital. Okay, but for a company, which is thinking strategic, has to think about, basically link to a business objective. So the Unilever example is a great example where, they thought about it strategically, and in a way, that investment in CSR will give it some return. Okay, and there are a lot of other examples. PepsiCo is doing a similar kind of thing, basically with women entrepreneurs. So a lot of companies, which are looking at their own domain of business, okay, and trying to do CSR, which is aligned, basically to what they're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Utkarsh, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Sir, I just wanted to ask, sir, suppose in a particular company, who does this job of CR? Are there special employees who take care of CR, or we do it with our own workforce, the CSR activity?
Sure. I think Utkarsh, a very, very excellent question. See, basically, if you're looking at corporate responsibility or corporate social responsibility only from the point of view of community, okay, तो आपको philanthropy करना है, which means you have to just find NGOs, donate them money, okay, and they will do charitable activities. Okay, so if you're looking at that kind of CSR, you only have 1 or 2 employees in the CSR department of a company. Okay, and these employees then, basically they know this is the budget of a company, and basically this is, and then their work is really finding a right match of an NGO, that will carry out that kind of work. So that's traditional, charitable way of looking at CSR. Now, if you really want to look at CSR from a perspective of sustainability, right, which means that the responsibility of business is not just limited to society or community at large, but every stakeholder, right? So environment ke saath, what is your responsibility? Supplier ke saath, what is your responsibility? Okay, so when we are looking at that kind of CSR, then basically it is still driven by 1 or 2 people, dedicated people in the CSR department, but they interface a lot with every department of the company. So there will be a health safety department. So how basically, and your employees, the safety and health of your workers, right? So then they will interface with the health and safety department, and ask for data and indicators, and that will help them in understanding that that the company is meeting the responsibility towards its own employees from the perspective, or its worker from the perspective of health and safety. Similarly, there will be an environment department. Okay, so they will interface with the environment department. What are you doing with the biomedical waste? Basically, what are you doing with your emissions? Water ke saath aap kya kar rahe ho? Are you really recycling water? So, when you look at sustainability as an agenda, then this particular department interfaces practically with each and every department, right? This department will interface with the HR department. Are there any human right violations? Are basically any child labor employees employed in our factory? What is the kind of working conditions in our factory? What are the wages in our factory? Okay, not at your own factory. You also then interface with basically a department that interfaces with a supplier, because you really want to know that in the supplier's factory, there is no child labor, basically which is involved, or what are the working conditions in your supplier's factory. So then this particular person in the CSR department interfaces with, basically a lot of stakeholders, internal stakeholders within the organization, and then they together drive the sustainability agenda. Vyakya, are you seeing any more? I can see hand, but I can't see the name. I'm sorry. Vyakya?
Aditya?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, sir. So my question is, as you said, environment responsibility is an important part of CSR. So how the fossil fuel industries were going to work towards the environment, how they are going to contribute towards the environment, as because as we can see in current scenario that there are lots of campaign going globally against the fossil fuel industries. So how the fossil fuel industry will going to contribute towards the environment?
See, I think they will have to look at renewable sources. So the first point is that basically if you look at coal, or if you look at crude oil or anything else, there are a lot of data which is saying that at some point in time there would not be enough resources to meet basically the consumer needs. Okay, so ultimately these companies have to look at alternative source of fuel, which can be basically so I think they have to hunt out for alternative source of fuels, and and I would also say on the other side, there are companies which are dependent on fossil fuels, so for example automobile companies, right? So I think from a sustainability standpoint, they also now need to think beyond fossil fuels if they are over dependent on fossil fuels, basically for their manufacturing process. Okay, so they will have to think electrical mobility and so on and so forth. See,
Okay.
always remember the fact that a company is an artificial legal entity, and in MBA, when we start knowing the company, this is the first thing that we learn. So company is an artificial legal entity, and basically a company is also immortal by law. Okay, so when a company is incorporated, it is not incorporated for 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. The society has given practically a immortality to a company, means the company cannot die. Okay, so if a company cannot die by law, basically a company cannot say that fossil fuel will be over, and hence basically my work will be over. Okay, so companies have to live 100, 200, 300 years, and if a company has to live that many years, they have to think long term, and if they have to think long term, they have to think alternatives. So that's the only way, otherwise investors will kind of start moving out, and these companies will no longer be profitable.
Thank you, sir.
The last question from Rahul Vyakya, and then we shall close.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, hi, good
Hello.
afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is that suppose if a company is continuously posting profit, and suddenly after some falls it start to posting loss, so will it affect its budget allocation for CSR, or it will remain same? What in that case company can do, sir?
All right. Okay. See, I'll tell you by law. Okay, so the law states that a company has to look at. So if we are in 2020-21 right now, okay. So when I say CSR is a law, and I mean that companies which have a annual profit of 5 crore or more, or annual turnover of 1,000 crore and more, basically they are required by law to spend 3% of a average basically of last 3 years. So if you are in 2020-21 right now, okay, and if you are falling within the law, and if you are required by law to spend 2% of their CSR, okay, so the way it is calculated, it is looking at your profit before tax for last 3 years. So it will look at 2017-18, 2018-19, 2019-20. Okay, so if you have made losses in all the 3 years, then by law you are not required to spend on CSR. Okay, so it is, so the first point I want to make is it is not loss for 1 year. So law is saying, what is the average profit before tax for a 3-year period. Okay, so you have to make loss for all the 3 years. Or your average loss for last 3 years should be negative in order for you to not make any investment in CSR. So that's law, right? I mean, basically now there are certain companies, basically which are, despite, and I am aware that, despite making losses, they continue to make some investments in CSR, because again, I'm sorry, because again they're looking at CSR at something which will enhance their brand image and, basically, and keep, the investors confident in them. Okay, so there are certain companies which, despite basically making losses for almost 3 years, do continue to make small little investment, in their CSR. But then I think if you look at the whole definition of CSR, I think the first responsibility of a company is really to make profit, right? Okay, so it should not mean that, basically आप loss करते रहो और आप CSR भी करते रहो. Ultimately, business were incorporated, to be profitable, right? Okay, so not profitable at the cost of, doing it illegally or doing it in an unethical way. I'm saying, basically they have to be profitable by being legal and by being ethical. But basically, there are certain companies, which, despite making losses, continue to spend small little budgets on CSR. But I personally feel that, making profits in an ethical and legal way should be the first agenda, basically for companies. Okay, and when they do that, then of course, it is more interesting to invest in, basically CSR and have a dedicated budget to it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now we would like to close the session. So it is now my pleasant duty to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of MNNIT Prayagraj, I thank you, Mr. Gaurav Arora, sir, for teaching us the corporate social responsibility and sustainability in terms of all the functional aspects of an organization and the efforts of contributing towards the society. As we say that pen is mightier than sword. So by learning about the responsibility we need to share, I think that we have the power to uplift the society and the environment. We will definitely be applying the knowledge that we have gained today. Thank you, sir, for imparting the knowledge. Thank you to the director, sir, dean, sir, faculty in charge SMP, Manjeet Arora, sir, Dr. Geetika ma'am, Dr. GP Sahu, sir, and all the faculties and all the students present here. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, coming back and interacting with the students. Thank you, Professor Tripathi, Professor Sahu, Professor Geetika, and all the student coordinators for giving me this opportunity to come back and, interact with the alma mater. Thank you very much. Thank you, Manjeet ji. Thank you very, very much for bringing me here, for being a very, guiding, alumni to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaurav. You very nicely explained everything and very correctly pointed out each and every points, but the questions which were raised by the students, the questions raised by the Vyakhya, they were all very nicely explained, and your total presentation was at par excellence. And I'll thanks Vyakhya and a silent backdoor boy Sushant Yadav also, who has been working hard to make each and every session of such human library a success. And not but the least, Rajiv Tripathi sir, the champion of all these activities, Pandey sir, Geetika ma'am, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Manjeet sir. Thank you, Mr. Gaurav, for such a nice lecture on a very relevant topic. This is a hot topic and very relevant in the present scenario, because the companies have certain responsibility towards society and they have to fulfill that and it is as said by Mr. Gaurav, this is given in the law of land also. So thank you, Mr. Gaurav. Thank you, Geetika ma'am. Thank you, Director sir, Professor Rajiv Tripathi.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Namaskar, Gaurav. Thank you. You really covered it very well.
Thank you, ma'am. Pleasure.
Thank you. And all the coordinators, starting from the senior most, Arora ji, Sudhant, Vyakhya, Professor Pandey, yes, and our director, who is always the guiding force. All the participants and the questions which were raised, which made it more meaningful. Thank you very much. All of you have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We can
Vyakhya, I
leave.
can leave now?
Yes, sir. We can all leave now.
All right.
राजीव सर कुछ बोलना
Sir,
you want to speak?
हाँ मैं
राजीव
बोल रहा था मैं बोल रहा था इनको क्या नाम है गौरव भाई को बोल रहा था कि let us work out something, because even a small project, if we are able to do it here at institute level, that will be in the interest of the institution, benefit of the students, everybody. So that is what I am repeating my earlier request.
No, sure, sir. I think I'll definitely come back, and I'm really looking forward to a continuous engagement, through which we can do something meaningful together. So looking forward to that, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for your assurance.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
thank you, sir.
Shall we close now?
So
Thank
now,
you, everybody. Yes, ma'am. We will now wind up the session.
okay, thank you, everyone. Mr. Sushant, then Vyakhya, Ranjit sir, everyone who directly or indirectly
Sir,
helped.
I was happy the way the students have questioned and they participated in questioning the doubts and about the topic, which was very good, because when they raise questions, it appears that there is a participation from students also. Having a good number, if they don't have questions to ask, the session doesn't have any meaning. So here I was very happy that the students were having good quality questions, and they received, I think they received the very quality answers.
Yes, certainly. So once again, thanks to everyone. Now we will close our session.
Right, sir.
Yes, now we will close the session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
for
much, sir.
joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.